So you want to offer equity compensation to your employees, but where do you even start? In this video, I'm going to give you 5 steps to implement an equity compensation program. Step number 1 is to design the plan. Before you can do anything else, you need to decide how you want the plan to work. What are your goals for the plan? What kind of benefits do you want to deliver to employees? What types of equity do you want to grant? Who do you want to receive those equity awards? And what kinds of conditions do you want the equity awards to be subject to? Typically, designing an equity compensation plan is a collaboration between all the key stakeholders at your company. Typically, the process is headed up by your HR or your comp and benefits team. They will typically also involve your legal team, who can help you with figuring out what kinds of laws might apply to the plan, as well as help with drafting the plan documents. There's a pretty good chance your accounting or finance team is also going to want to be involved in the process, since the plan ultimately will be a cost to the company. And many companies hire compensation consultants to help them figure out how to use equity to best meet their goals and objectives for the program. And then if your company already has a stock plan administrator, it's also a good idea to include that person in the design process. They often bring a knowledge of equity compensation to the table that none of the other team members have. Designing an equity plan is typically a balancing act between making sure the plan accomplishes the goals that you have for it and delivers the benefits you want to provide to employees, while at the same time ensuring the cost is acceptable to the company, that any investor concerns are addressed, and making sure the plan complies with all the laws and regulations that might apply to it. Once you have designed your plan and drafted the plan document, then the next step is to have your board of directors adopt the plan. Under your state corporate laws, your board has authority over all issuances of company stock. Because you will be issuing company stock under the equity plan, it is important that the board adopt the plan, since they have authority over it. Once the plan has been adopted by your board of directors, the next step is usually to ask your shareholders to approve the plan. There are 2 reasons why you might want to get shareholder approval for the plan. The first, if you are a publicly held company, is because shareholder approval is likely required by the exchange where your shares are traded. Both the NASDAQ and the NYSE require listed companies to submit all of their equity plans to their shareholders for approval. The second reason to get shareholder approval would be if you want to offer tax qualified arrangements under the plan. If you want to offer incentive stock options or a Section 423 qualified ESPP, the plan has to have been approved by your shareholders. Once you have shareholder approval for the plan, you're good to go. You are ready to start granting equity. Not so fast, though. Before you start issuing equity just willy-nilly, there are 2 key controls to have in place. First, you want to establish some grant guidelines. These guidelines provide a framework for who is going to receive grants, when they receive those grants, and how large the grants will be. These guidelines are critical to ensuring that the equity plan is fair and consistent, and also to helping you manage your share reserve for the plan. In addition to having grant guidelines, it is also important to establish a grant recommendation process. This is the process by which employees are selected and recommended to receive equity grants. This includes who makes the initial recommendation and who else along the way might need to review that recommendation before it is ultimately approved by your board or other entity with authority to approve those grants. The recommendation process is important to ensuring that you stay within the guidelines that you set up for your program. The last step, once an employee has been recommended to receive a grant, is for that grant to be properly approved. Again, here, your board has authority over all of issuances, but in most cases, the board will delegate the authority to approve individual grants to either your compensation committee, or for employees who are not officers of the company, that authority might be delegated to an officer or a committee of officers. Once your grants are properly approved, then there's 2 last actions to take before you're done. The first is to document the grant. You need to issue a grant agreement. This is the contract that explains how the grant works, who receives it, and what all the conditions are that apply to it. Without this grant agreement, you don't have a grant, really. And then in addition to creating the grant agreement, you have to notify the employee who received the grant that they received a grant. Without this notification, the grant isn't doing anybody any good. Not you, not the employee. And in addition to providing that notification, most companies design a whole educational program to help employees understand what the grants are, why they received the grant, what the benefits are that the grant delivers to them, and what they need to do to take advantage of those benefits. I hope that you found this helpful. If you are new to granting equity, or if you've just implemented an equity compensation plan and you are looking for more information about designing equity plans or managing them, we have some great courses to help you with that, whether you are a public or a private company. We'll include some links in the show notes. If you enjoyed my video today, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. That way you're notified when we post new videos, and it really helps us out too. Win-win. Thanks for watching.